Hello, my name is Arnab Dey. I am an associate professor of history at the State University of New York at Binghamton in New York, and also a visiting scholar at the Mario Einaudi Center for International Studies at Cornell University. My research at the Global Disconnect Center broadly looks at the processes, the histories, the narratives of silences, of erasures, and absences in those processes of the Second Industrial Revolution that basically lasted from between the 1850s and the 1914 and thereafter, in terms of human labor, environmental transformation, and diseases that emerged as a consequence of industrial work. To that end, this research is trying to salvage, foreground, and highlight those narratives, those logics, and those moments that were erased from the records and the archives of the past. In my research, I'm trying to utilize both secondary and primary sources, memoirs, and written material that tries to actually highlight those absences and silences. As an example of this research, one could think of the medical records of fact-finding missions that were authorized by the British Empire and lasted into India's post-independent period, that looked at the lung diseases of coal miners, a disease that cannot be understood or is not even visible unless you look at radiographic and X-ray images of these workers in terms of the material that they used and produced that actually led to pneumococcosis and TB, for example. So I'm trying to use these medical sources, sometimes published, sometimes hidden in the archives, to highlight these diseases of the coal workers and other industrial undertakings. My research project that I just completed and will be ongoing from the Global Disconnect Research Centre is fundamentally connected to the processes of disconnectivity that the Global Disconnect Centre is focused on. How is that so? Well, for the most obvious part of this history, we do know of those aspects of globalization that are in our face. We know of the products we use, gold, rubber, tea, coffee, sugar. We know of the manifestations of globalization in fossil fuel economies, in nation states formation, in trade and commerce. But there are aspects of this history that we just do not know, that we just do not see. Why do we not see it? Because those histories are embodied in the lives and the labors of the end producer, of the worker, of the coal miner, of the wool worker, of the textile laborer, who have produced these riches and goods and services for the metropolitan market and the other parts of the world. We do not see the diseases of the coal miners, of the wool workers, of the textile workers, of the railway workers, that they carry within themselves, that reduce earning capacity, that lessen the ability to work. We do not see how those diseases that emerged as a consequence of globalization carry over to their successors, to their children and grandchildren. These are the processes that my research at the Global Disconnect Center tried to foreground and highlight. But I would also stress that these histories are not just aspects of the past. These have remained and will remain in our midst silent and absent unless we pay attention and put our ears to these histories and voices and sources. That is the history of disconnectivity that my project at the Global Disconnect Center has tried to highlight. Thank you.